My name is Miriam Mortel. Some of you know me as the author of a book titled Lessons in Law of Attraction. I'm one of the few people, I would say, that's really talked about the bridge between what's generally known as the Law of Attraction and its true Jewish roots. For those of you who don't know, Law of Attraction is the concept that what we think, feel, and believe creates our reality. This message is the Rosh Hashana message and Yom Kippur message that I wanted to send out, that I felt really called for a while to send out. And in saying this message, I'm going to give a little bit explanation and background about who I am, what Law of Attraction is, and really a way we can focus our energy coming into Rosh Hashana. So a little bit about me. Anyone who's known me, gotten to know me, or spoken to me at all within the last 5 to 7 years of my life knows that my life has not been the easiest. I had many, many challenges, and there were so many days that it was hard just for me to get out of bed. I was at a point in my life, not even that long ago, that I just didn't know how I was going to go on. Simply because it just seemed like one adversity after another. And what really changed my life was a combination of things. The first of which is taking time to do Kippur, personal prayer, and what that ultimately led me to. One of the tools that I was led to that really changed my life, and this is why I'm sharing it, is what's known as Law of Attraction. You see, I went through so many things in my life, and what I didn't understand is why they were happening. I had read numerous Jewish books that would always talk about accepting whatever Hashem does is best. And to just say thank you, no matter what. And I didn't argue, because I know the power of positive energy. But it's really hard to find genuine gratitude when you don't have true understanding for what's going on in your life. What I want to share, I hope, will help people gain some of the understanding. And that has been one of the biggest gifts that Hashem has given to me, is this knowledge and clarity. So my personal journey has really been in two parts. There's part one, which is what my book is based off, and part two is what the sequel, which will be coming out likely in 2021, God willing, will be about. But it's really this understanding, what does it mean that we create our reality? And it's really that we co-create a reality with God. So before I relay the information of what Law of Attraction is, an important thing to preface is there's something called the vibrational scale. So vibration is energy output. And you can think of it like an hourglass. In the top half of the hourglass are all the positive emotions: hope, joy, love, even just feeling contentment. The bottom half, fear, anger, despair, and then you have neutrality right in the middle. Depending on where a person is at this current time will depend on whether or not they can really absorb this information. And I found that for myself, and really for anyone that I've come in contact with, they always understand things on layers. So they can understand the same information on a deeper and deeper level the more they read it or listen to it. So this might be something that you want to listen to more than once. So what is vibration? I mentioned vibration is energy output. It's really a combination of things. Vibration mostly is your mood, whatever you're feeling whether you're feeling just in general hopeful, content, fearful, there's always this dominant energy within you. That's your vibration. Now, sometimes people think they're being really positive, but they're not being honest with themselves how they're truly feeling inside. So the vibration is how you're really feeling inside. And what makes up your vibration is what stems from your beliefs. So law of attraction is what you think, feel, and believe, creating your reality. That's what law of attraction is, right? It's not just our conscious beliefs. It's also our subconscious beliefs. This is where a lot of people get really confused. Many people have read the book The Secret. They think they understand law of attraction. They see the words ask, believe, receive. They think, oh, they just visualize, a sports car or a mansion, and all of a sudden they get it. That's really not how it works. It's almost deceitful. Unless someone is totally energetically balanced in a really positive place emotionally, it's likely not going to be that easy. The thing also with law of attraction is so many people market it as a way to get the fancy things in life. Law of attraction, in my humble opinion, was meant to be a self-help tool. And what I think what's most appealing to people is not about getting these fancy cars or really nice homes. Don't get me wrong, people would appreciate that. But I think at this point, especially with everything going on in the world, what everyone wants is to just feel better in their everyday life. And that's the purpose of my book and everything that I'm teaching and the way that I help people. I recently also created an Instagram account, so it's at Miriam Wartell Official. And the last name is spelled Wartell. So at Miriam Wartell Official, if anyone wants to watch, I have videos on there. So as I was saying, it's really about helping your everyday life. So the first is understanding, well, why is our life not as great as how we'd like it to be, right? Why do we go through things that we're going through? And the answer is certain things that you have in your vibration. Now, the things that you have in your vibration, from my understanding, is before you come into this world, you're co-creating with Hashem, and of course in this world you're co-creating with Hashem. So you have certain objectives that your soul wants to hit, right? And so you decide you're coming into a body, you're choosing your circumstances, the initial starting point, but the soul doesn't remember what it's like to be in the constricted consciousness of being a human, right? And the human doesn't remember what it's like to not have constricted consciousness of really being in their full soul state. So neither one really understands the other until they're in that state. And I'm laughing because, it's almost like we as souls don't know what we're getting ourselves into for a human form. And then in human form, we're like, what's going on? So we choose, from my understanding, our starting point. And then as humans, it's up to us what we're doing, how we're navigating, and that's where we're co-creating with God. So the part about law of attraction that does not get talked about, and this will be in my next book, so this is kind of a sneak preview of that, is what we go through as children and teenagers, the things that we hear, the philosophies we pick up. So we may have heard the phrase, for example, money doesn't grow on trees, it's hard to get a good paying job, you can't have success unless you go to college, love doesn't come easily, I'm not worthy of love. So things that you may have felt, right? You might think the world's not safe or felt that way. However you felt as a kid or a teen, unless you have worked with a therapist or done your own self-work through journaling or whatever else. And by the way, I always recommend for anyone and everyone to journal, because you have no idea how much you can discover about yourself by doing that. So unless you've cleared that out, chances are these things are still in your vibration and they're operating within you on a subconscious level. So the way law of attraction works, I'm going to describe it a little differently than I had in my first book. Think of law of attraction as a giant mirror. So Hashem's holding up a giant mirror in your life. Often you will see certain patterns. Even if it doesn't look exactly the same, it could be the same test over and over again. And that could be about love, health, money, or a mixture of things. And you might see the same recurring thing, and how you know it's the recurring thing, it's going to bring up the same recurring feelings. You may find that you have like endless amounts of frustration, for example. So I first learned about patterns from Louise Hay. There's a wonderful book that she wrote called You Can Heal Your Life, and I highly recommend it. But really, if you start to notice what's going on in your life, and you even just take a survey, for even a decade of your life, different things that went on, you'll likely see, when you ask yourself what happened and how it made you feel, what were people's reactions. So sometimes, and it's a tough thing to explain in a really, really concise way, because there's multiple levels, but it's always like, so you could like view a person in a negative way, and because you view them in a negative way, you'll get a negative response from them, right? So there's things you can do on a surface level, just like when you interact with someone, thinking of them kindly, you're more likely to get a kind response. Going into a certain opportunity, let's say going into a job interview, if you focus your positive mindset, yes, you can kind of override it, being in the moment, being in a positive place, but sometimes you can't really get yourself where you need to be without clearing out the other junk that's in your vibration. So I hope that's making sense. So essentially, the best way I can describe it is picture like a tornado, okay? And that tornado has, from your childhood until now, okay, all the different sets of emotions that you've been feeling, the ones that like often repeat, but they'll usually be tied to certain phrases, right? So it could be something like, life's not fair, money doesn't grow on trees. You'll have certain things that just resonated with you from certain ages. So that's all swirling around. And so it's that plus your current mood is the best way I can describe vibration. Every time Hashem brings something to go on in your life, it's an opportunity. So I recently started saying certain affirmations. So affirmations are words that you say because our words create, so to help, create something better in your life. But every word that we say, regardless of whether or not we mean it to be an affirmation, is. In other words, every word we speak, everything creates, right? You don't believe me? Try it. It can definitely, it's pretty amazing. But really, what affirmations do, it really helps fix things in your subconscious mind. There's also visual tools and things like that, but really your subconscious mind is really where a lot of the healing needs to take place, because that's what's creating the negative emotions. So it's, again, subconscious mind plus the emotions are creating the current thoughts and beliefs, which are creating your reality. I think it's probably the best I've ever said that. So the reason I'm bringing this up, and I'm bringing up affirmations, is with affirmations, we can bring things to our both conscious and subconscious mind. So I recently started saying, anytime I went through an emotional trigger, I had some kind of major obstacle, something happened in my life that made me upset, I would say, I know this is an opportunity, and then I thanked Hashem. So I finally started to learn and incorporate things that I've read in various Jewish books. But that I was also only able to do that once I could understand the other premise that we create a reality, we're co-creating with us, and that we also have the power to change our life for the better. So when I would start to affirm that, I would learn and understand what my triggers are within 24 hours, usually even a lot less, I would understand why I'm reacting. I can go, journal it out, and I could say, oh, this is tied to this feeling. When have I felt this feeling before? And I could tie it into whatever it is. It then brought meaning as to what brought the suffering it really helped me to understand how humans create their own suffering, because we always think it's God doing it to us, and it's not. It's ourselves. It has to do with how we interpret information and the things that we don't resolve. And what Hashem does, and from my understanding, the reason why everything is good is it's because it's an opportunity for us. But it's not good for us, and I want to be careful how I say this, if we're not using the opportunity. So Hashem is holding up a giant mirror with the law of attraction. And we attract what we are, the vibrations that we're holding in, everything that we are, what we stand for, what we feel. That is what we attract in our life. Okay? I personally was someone who was carrying around an immense amount of fear and feeling that the world isn't safe. I'm saying this as someone who, I know a lot of people in my generation, I'm saying this as a millennial, were affected particularly by 9/11, certain other things that, me being a sensitive person, affected me more. And what I experienced in my life was a lot of pain, a lot of feelings of unsafety. I had weird issues, thank God they've, resolved, but I had freak issues where I had, for example, doctors injuring me. Okay, and that came from, there were, not getting to a whole long story, multiple patterns, and I went through so much serious. I went through a point, I said, Baruch Hashem, I'm totally healed. Years ago, I went through a point I was disabled almost, like not fully disabled, but I was in severe pain and could barely work, or actually couldn't work for about 9 months. This was, I'm trying to think how many years ago that was, I don't know if it was 2016 or 2017. Baruch Hashem, I'm totally healed. Again, things are energetic, things are whatever, so the more people do that work, the easier things can heal. But I had this thing where, like, I had this sort of distrust of people, constantly felt unsafe, and so when you expect something negative to happen, it attracts that energy from others. So mine was a bit of an extreme example, and I may talk about that in my next book. It's something that I just kind of came up now, and I said, you know what, I feel like it was meant to come out of my mouth. I mean, if it came out of my mouth, it was meant to. And I can help people more by being transparent about some of the things that's gone into my own life. As I said, my life has not been the easiest, but Baruch Hashem, it's really done a 180 within the last year. So when everyone else is going through also a lot, during 2020, having things being a crazy year, using this time to be introspective is really key, and it really is the key to healing. So I would start to say affirmations to help me with my triggers, to understand them. And then as you do that, you realize that everything Hashem gives you is a gift. He's saying, I'm bringing this to your conscious attention. Just be on the lookout for the message I'm trying to send you. I don't know how many shiurim and things like that I've listened to, and someone says, yes, we can pray for understanding or whatever else, but it's like, so many people, they're praying and they're asking for this is what I heard in the shiurim, they're asking for the issue to stop. But the issue is always purposeful. Whatever you're going through is purposeful. So because we co-create with Hashem, so whatever you're putting out, Hashem's using that opportunity. So like, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. So your energy, your vibration, your output is like a little vessel of its own, right? Hashem decides the specifics, and that specific is going to help you with your soul journey. Okay? Now, everything always has to be a match to what you put out, right? And people will only understand this in its right time, that you're meant to understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is very complex, and I'm trying to say in a very simple way. But in other words, if you have a cup, and that cup is labeled for fear-based items, okay? Then Hashem picks something that would match that criteria, that can help you, that can hopefully help you, stop it and fix it. Obviously, Hashem never, ever, ever wants us to go through any pain. The goal is to get us to fix the issue so we are not in pain. I really feel like I cannot say that, loudly and clearly enough. Hashem loves us. Hashem does not want anyone to be in pain. Hashem's like, this is your trigger issue. We're going to resolve it. Okay. I've heard so many people crying from various things and so much pain from various things. I know people who've gone through, so much, for example, in their marriages. Okay. Whoever your spouse is, it's just your shaliach. And you can get mad at them, you could go whatever, but however that person is making you feel is the thing that you need to work on. So if you're feeling like you're not good enough, if you feel like no one else would love you, if you feel like however you feel inside, if you feel a feeling of just this lack of freedom, a feeling stuck, a feeling of whatever, when you resolve that internally, the outside has to match. Because then that cup, like every cup has a label, if you say, okay, my cup represents freedom, joy, love, happiness, then Hashem gets to put something wonderful in your cup. You get to co-create with Him on the top half of the vibrational scale instead of the bottom half vibrational scale. Someone who's too far on the vibrational scale will not be able to understand the words that I'm saying right now. So that's why I said it's something that you may want to listen to more than once. And again, I'm saying probably hours worth of information in a really short amount of time, so I'm trying to say this as clearly as I can. So there's a couple things in wanting to help people that I would recommend to everyone. The first is work on self-love. Because I truly feel you can't really learn to love Hashem until you love yourself. Okay? We are a flame from a flame. So love yourself does not mean love your ego. There's an ego and there is a soul. Okay? Our true selves is obviously our soul selves. It's not about loving our ego. It's not about buying ourselves flowers. You can totally buy yourself flowers if you want. If it makes you happy, gigs at the head, go for it. But the thing is, it's really about appreciating who we are. It's understanding and seeing our value. It's feeling we are worthy. So many times, I've heard people say, oh, maybe Hashem's not giving to me because it's not good for me. But what people don't do is they don't finish that sentence. It's not good for you right now. It's not necessarily good for someone to receive their zivug if they don't love themselves yet. It's not good for someone to receive large amounts of money through their career if they don't value themselves yet. You got to hold out the right cup so Hashem can co-create with you. And if it feels like you're trying to be positive and nothing is happening, or it only happens, usually this is what happens, you get a short amount of success, it's like spiking your blood sugar, but it won't stay there. That is your signal to do your inner work. There's a reason why therapists do inner child work. I highly recommend doing it on some level. Everyone presently living who's been alive for at least 20 years has been through a lot. Okay? 9/11, recession of 2008, current pandemic. There shouldn't be a stigma around therapy. It has affected a lot of how we view the world. That goes into our subconscious mind. That affects our also conscious mind. So our direct thoughts. It affects what's in our heart. It affects. Sorry, I said direct. It affects how we view Hashem and the world and ourselves. That's why, even people don't want to go see a therapist. At least get a journal. Try to do some of your own self-work, because I guarantee you, if you're trying to be positive, you can't get there. It's because Hashem's saying you have something deep down that is stuck in your vibration you need to clear out. I cannot tell you how many times I have personally yelled at God that I had lost it. There were times I wondered if Hashem chas v'shalom hated me. I really couldn't understand why things were happening in my life. I remember reading Rabbi Arush's book garden of gratitude and also say thank you and see miracles. And I totally understood. At that point, I knew what law of attraction was. I'm like, okay, well, energy of gratitude is an extremely powerful thing. I understood that, but I'm like, but how do you get there? How do you get there? How do you get there? What I'm sharing now, I hope, explains how you get there. Why everything we go through is an opportunity. Why a lot of times when we're mad at God, we're just mad at the fact that we don't understand something. And that's really what our tefillah, what our prayer should be. My prayers nowadays look very different than how they used to. So first of all, I said I started doing Hippodio. I started talking to Hashem in my own words. I start my morning every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And I talk to Hashem whether I feel like it or not. And the amount of epiphanies that I've had and the amount of clarity that I've had is amazing. And I would recommend it because it really feels unbelievable, the clarity that comes through it. And it's like processing. It's like having someone talk to every single day is amazing. And then you get guided to things along your day. You'll open up a certain book, you'll read something online, you'll hear something from a certain video, and somehow your question will get answered. But before that, if I talked to God, it was in the middle of Shemona Esrei, in Shema Kolenu, or sometimes a couple times, generally, I would kind of whisper to him or say, and it was always, please help me, please help me, please help me. Because sometimes those were the only words that I knew how to speak. Now, it's, please help me to understand. Please help me to receive. Please show me what I need to do. I understand when I pray that whatever I'm going through is something that's purposeful and something that I created with God. I did the first step. I put out my vibration, so I know whatever's going on, that however Hashem's matching me, it's purposeful. So Hashem, please help me to understand. Why am I being triggered by this? Why is this happening? Help me please to understand. Please guide me to heal whatever I need to heal within me. There were times I cried out that I was like, do we even have free will? Do we even have this, all this stuff, and there were times I screamed, I didn't come here to suffer. Because I really did not understand what was going on in my life. I now look at everything. I'm not going to say those moments were it's even hard for me to look back at those moments, but I really understand now that those moments were all Hashem just being my mirror of the things I needed to work on. Because one of the things that I needed to work on was self-love. I thought I loved myself. I loved my ego. I didn't love myself on a soul level. I didn't feel worthy of love. And I don't care what anyone says. Most people do not really feel worthy of love on the level they're supposed to. I didn't feel worthy of good things happening in general. I wanted to know where my successes were and things like that, and not realizing that deep down I felt uncomfortable with that success because a part of me didn't feel worthy on the level that I needed to feel worthy. I'm not going to say I didn't feel worthy at all. Of course I did somewhat, and thank God, I've had success in my career and things like that. But often, because of things deep inside of us, we get blocked from, what we want, what we desire, what we've been praying for, and then we get so mad at God, or we try to rationalize it, and we say, oh, it's not God's will. Let me tell you, they are dangerous words. Those are dangerous words. Humans should not be speaking about what God's will is. I want to do a whole other thing on that because that was a huge, huge, huge trigger subject for me for a very long time. Because humans would comment on my life and tell me what is or isn't God's will. When you get into your soul state, when you really connect with who you are, because we're a flame from a flame, it's very clear what you should be doing with your life. And no one else should be commenting on your life. Everything in your life is between you and yourself and you and God. That's it. And that also brings me to another point, especially before Hashana and Yom Kippur. I don't know how many times I've seen people comment, oh, this person, she's not covering her hair enough, her skirt's not long enough, oh, that guy, what he's eating, it's his kashrus is I don't know. Stop looking at other people. If you take nothing else from this message, law of attraction aside, please stop looking at what everyone else is doing. Your job is to focus on you, and that's it. And if you're wondering why things are not going in your life the way that you want to, is because you're focused on the outer instead of the inner. Okay? Every single thing that we want in life, we can find on the inner. So the more you're focusing on what your neighbor's doing, what your friend's doing, what your sibling's doing, whatever it may be, just stop. Okay? That's taking you away from your soul mission, what you have to do in this world. Okay? Go inner. You'll get directions on how to help people on the outer if you're meant to help people on the outer. But it's not your job to go correct someone else, to go whatever, unless you feel, I want to say this carefully, intuitively called to do so, and then do it in the kindest way. But really, their life is none of your business. Like, unless you see them doing something that's, of course, harmful, whatever else, things of that nature. But my bottom line is your job is to work on yourself. I also learned that one the hard way, because when my life seemed out of control, for anyone, it seems easier to control other people. We always think the other person is the problem. The other person is a reflection of your world. Okay? You actually, if you see a whole bunch of different things that bother you, that means there's something internal that's bothering you. You're just seeing a mirror of it. Okay? It's like a weird funhouse mirror. Actually, when you go to the dressing room and you have mirrors on at least 3 sides, right? So we kind of get this 3D mirror going on. And so how all these different experiences, they're really based on us. So when you really understand, it's why are you getting mad for what you see in the mirror? So why are you getting married at your husband, your boss, your mailman? Something that whatever you're going through is based off of your vibration. Okay? And again, Hashem is co-creating with whatever's in your vibration to bring things to your awareness so you can fix it. I hope this explains to so many people all that's going on in their life, that the more they understand this, you will understand. So the more you'll understand this, the more you'll understand what's going on in your life. The easier it is to let go of any anger that you may have held towards Hashem or towards others. Other people are just being what's known as cooperative components. I learned that term from Abraham Hicks, who I write about in my book. Kind of a weird thing to describe Abraham's thing, but again, you can read about it in my book. But they're basically just cooperating with universal energies to display a certain message to you, right? And the other thing is that, I know it's going to sound weird, all humans are a little bit telepathic, and I read about in my book, when ants do it, it's somehow acceptable, the busy ants tell each other where to find their food. We actually do communicate on a subconscious level, because remember, we are part of one consciousness, we're connected to Hashem, so how we think about someone, they'll actually get almost like a subconscious ping, and they'll kind of react based on that, so that there's certain mechanisms, behind this. When I'm saying life is a mirror and whatever else, it's because we're actually broadcasting it on wavelengths I think most scientists have not really talked about yet. Quantum physics is now finally getting around to this. I would also recommend people look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has some very interesting videos and really just talks about the incredible power of the mind, and also how to have spontaneous healing, which is extremely interesting through the power of the mind. But again, whole other conversation. But my point is, in saying all of this, 1, anything that's going on in your life can change for the better. 2, you can thank Hashem for what you're going through, because you can understand it's just to bring your awareness of the underlying issue, which, using this information, you can now go and heal, right? So an easy way to do that is to just journal different events that happen, even seriously from as early as you can remember, 2, 3 years old, whatever it is. Different events that went on in your life, how that made you feel. They'll help you get an understanding of how things, it's a very, very powerful thing, by the way. And here's an interesting thing. Came to me maybe a couple months ago, this idea. Think of it if anyone's seen the nesting dolls, right? So one little doll is inside another doll, another inside another doll, little Russian dolls, one's inside of another. Every age we've ever lived is inside of us, and you can't ignore it. It's always there, right? It's like peeling the onion, right? So if you go through and you write out, if everyone just spent, couple hours of one day just to write out different things that went on in their life and how they feel, like, especially, of course, like the less happier things, because that's really going to tell you, you know, the dirt that's there, right? What you really need to work on. And then you look at what's happening now, you're going to see these patterns, and then you can clear them out, and then they can stop happening, right? So, for example, let's say someone, you know, felt like they got married, but they weren't feeling good about themselves, right? Then if they got married in a state of not feeling good about themselves, chances are there were going to be issues, of course, in their marriage. And that's also a very, very logical thing, right? But it could be more subconscious. In other words, they may have on the outside felt good about themselves, but like, so let's say there was someone who felt like, okay, you know, I'm going to be a provider, I'm going to go do this, whatever. But deep down, he's not, like, let's say the husband didn't see his own value, and then he struggled, you know, to get a job and all these other things. And let's say that could be related to something when they were 14 years old and they went through a certain experience and someone said to him, hey, you're never going to amount to anything, right? So there are things sometimes we forget that when we go through this age, like, oh, that's where this thing came from, whatever. And okay, how can I feel good about myself? And then I can go and say affirmations, you know, I see my own value, right? And I can dive into Hashem to help me see my own value. And then I work on these core issues, and then my life gets better. Ta-da, right? So I'm, you know, I just put myself in the mind of the example of that man who struggled, you know, with his job security or his lack of success, right? That would be an example of that. So, and I lost count of the numbers. I was starting to count the different points. My point is really, as I said, know your circumstances can change. Everything starts on the inner. Don't look at what everyone else is doing, because everything, your inner world creates your outer world. It's literally pointless to focus on the outside. Your job is to not change the outside. Your job is to change you. When you change you, the outside will change. It has to. It's just the way things were designed. And when I went through so much, and part of the reason I feel like I went through so much is so I could be a shaliach, especially to the Jewish community, because I wish I had someone telling me this information earlier. I wish I had understood this. I wish, of course, I hadn't gone through that suffering. And if I could minimize someone else's suffering, you know, I can't say, oh, that makes everything I went through worth it, but it helps make it meaningful for me, you know, to help someone else. And what I really wanted to talk about, the last thing that I wanted to bring up, is really changing the paradigm of the Jewish people. And how, I mean, like, so having Jewish people change the paradigm of how they're thinking about God and the world. And so my first piece is understanding this, so you understand, okay, you know, God's not doing to you for no reason, and people don't have to yell out, until when? Like, just ask Hashem to understand, ask Hashem to guide you, right? But one of the biggest issues that I've come across, and I'm saying this in my own Baal Tshuva journey, right? So someone who's become religious, and of course, for almost no Baal Tshuva as a linear process, right? There's definitely things I've taken a step back and I'm like, okay, well, am I supposed to do this or whatever, and how should it be, and what's the philosophy on this and whatever else? But there are things that I have witnessed. And I think this is what saddens me the most, is that so many people have viewed Hashem in a place of din. And what I mean by that is, I've seen a lot of people with religious OCD. Okay? I do believe there's a reason why we're not supposed to add or take away from a mitzvah. Obviously, that's said explicitly. But it's one thing if someone wants to do something else and they do it with love. But if you're doing something else out of fear, that's not the way to do it. And I myself had caught myself for years, like looking back, I was like, oh my gosh. You know? And I also, on the same token, want to bring up this whole idea of segulas, right? We somehow think that we do all these different things, whatever's going to change everything, and segulas are like icing on a cake. If you don't have a cake, it's just not going to work. The cake is a foundation that Hashem's helping you no matter what. The segula might make it come, okay, maybe a little quicker, whatever else, because you're in a place of positive belief, whatever else. But like, if you don't believe Hashem is helping you, if you don't believe that you're worthy, if you don't have those like checks and balances in place, there's really no point in doing the segula. And I just want to put that out there. I also used to do like everything I could, right? To try and make my life better. And like the answer is always go inward and talk to Hashem. That's always the answer. You cannot get around that one. And, on that, even I'll bring up things even like ayin haras, right? And I dealt with ayin haras. I paid people at some points to have them removed. And I'll tell you, after they were removed, my life did get better. But if you don't change your behaviors, they come back because they are attracted energetically. But here's the other thing. Here's what removes ayin haras. You focus on ino mivado. There's nothing other than God. When you focus on yourself, truly, in your relationship with Hashem, the ayin haras will melt away on their own, and you can save yourself a whole lot of money from going to all these people who do all these things and whatever else. Like Hashem is the biggest segula. He is the biggest ayin hara melter. He is like, he's the fix of everything. And I think people always go look for that quick fix, okay? There are no quick fixes in life, just like there's no legitimate, get-rich-quick schemes, right? You can't bypass the inner work and have the life that you want. It just doesn't work that way. But the self-work doesn't have to be as hard or as taxing or doesn't have to take as long as someone might think. When you're really focused, 3 to 6 months could really change your life, right? Of just being conscious of how you feel. And then again, your whole reality will change based off that. And what I was saying before, how we view Hashem, and really this is one of the biggest part of my messages for Rosh Hashana, it's like we always get more of what we focus on, right? So I've heard many people say the phrase, what we focus on expands, right? Or energy is like water. Whatever, you water is what's going to grow. So, positive thought, negative thought, whatever you water is going to grow. If we want to have a better year, it is vital to think of Hashem as his true essence of rachamim. If you are doing actions that are based off, and I was calling talking about like religious OCD. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone, God forbid, who actually deals with OCD. I'm talking about this, and I know people who do suffer from OCD who unfortunately have actually that tied in and whatever else, but it's this idea of you not doing something, because you can say, oh, Hashem's merciful, but if you do an action, you're showing Hashem that you don't think he's merciful. If you feel like you have to do all these like crazy things, like if you feel like you have to say a certain psalm, like, I don't know, 40 times, just making something up right now, but I'm saying like if you feel like you have to do this stuff, you have to, whatever, and anytime you feel like you have to, and you feel that like, or if you're davening and something doesn't feel right to you, like if you're, like, feel if your body's tensing up, it doesn't feel right to you, don't do that. Like, and I think you'll find, at least for most people, I think actually I don't know anyone that hasn't felt like this, that when you just talk to Hashem, you'll feel more relaxed, you'll feel your body untense. But if you feel this tense in your body as you're doing something that is religiously tied, that is your cue to not do it that way. Okay? Because a lot of times you think, oh, if I don't do this, Hashem's going to do X, Y, Z to me. That is viewing Hashem from a place of din. There's so much talk about, reward and punishment. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm just saying our focus really needs to be on a place of rachamim, especially for where we are now. And I remember, by the way, not even that long ago, but for sure within the last decade, so many Tisha B'Av videos. I don't even know what they put in Tisha B'Av videos anymore because I haven't watched them in years, because I was scarred by what I saw as like a teenager. Okay? But, it was kind of like, hey, you're doing this bad thing, and like to show pictures of like what happened after like suicide bombings and things like that. I thought that was terrible, because it's implying like, hey, you're being a bad Jew and it's causing this thing to happen. And even recently, like with the pandemic, other things have gone on in the world. People said, oh, it's because women aren't covering their hair right, or they're not dressing smoothly, or whatever. Like, no, like that is terrible. That's saying that Hashem is a vengeful God, and he is not. To me, that is blasphemous. Okay? There are things that go on. There's things we're not going to understand, of course, as humans, why they're going on. The information I shared will hopefully help people understand a lot more than they ever have. But when you do an action any religious action especially, it is so important to do it from a place of love, okay? If you feel stressed out preparing for Rosh Hashanah, doing certain things, whatever, that's your cue to get takeout this year, okay? If you're saying, oh, but it's not perfect, whatever, Hashem wants you to show up, to be happy. Hashem wants you to be happy to be in a relationship. Otherwise, it's like being in this like forced arranged marriage, okay? Hashem wants you to be happy. Hashem wants to come close to you. It took me so long. I know this sounds like crazy to say. It took me a long time for me to really realize, not on a like general conscious logical level, but from my heart space, from my subconscious especially, for me to say, you know, Hashem wants me to be happy. And Hashem doesn't want me to do these like crazy million things to try to make my life better. And Hashem's doing this and it's for my benefit. And now I understand why it's for my benefit. And I'm going to be patient in my journey as I'm looking through these, you know, I'm going through some of these obstacles because I understand it's just to point me in the right direction. And I can handle it a lot better knowing all of this is feedback. By the way, everything we go through in life is just pure feedback on a vibration. That's all it is. But there are times, you know, I'll be honest, I felt like Hashem was against me. Of course, I regret feeling like that. I'm not going to beat myself up for that. There's things I said this year that I can never unsay really what I said. But I feel like the true teshuvah that I can do is that change of behavior, that change of feeling, and me realizing what Hashem has done for me and giving a legitimate thank you Hashem, for giving me the awareness to help myself and to help others. Thank you, Hashem, for helping me to understand why I was so triggered. Thank you, Hashem, for helping me to understand why I got so mad at you. And thank you, Hashem, for helping me to realize that actually came from me. And thank you, Hashem, for showing me how to heal myself. So it is my blessing to everyone for this year to be the easiest year that we've seen yet. The most meaningful, the most love-filled, the most joyous, the most prosperous, of course, the healthiest. So really may Hashem bless you and your family, your friends, even your mailman, everyone you know, for really a good, happy, and healthy year this year. And again, please, as you go into Rosh Hashanah, and especially on Yom Kippur, don't stand there in fear. Don't stand there in anger. Don't stand there in resentment towards yourself, to Hashem, or to others. Just say, you know, I learned something new. It changed my perspective. Hashem, I'm excited for my new journey. Thank you, Hashem, for being patient with me. Thank you, Hashem, for guiding me. Hashem, I know I did wrong, but I'm really working on doing better. And Hashem, I'm asking please for a really good year where I get to do better and that it's easier for me to do better. Thank you, Hashem, for this opportunity. Thank you, Hashem, for another year of my life. Thank you, Hashem, for helping me to make it to another Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I'll tell you, because of the books that I was reading, and I was reading Rabbi Rosh's book, and I'm not sure what else I was reading at the time before last Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But last Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I did my best to thank Hashem. At the time, I didn't know really what I was thanking Hashem for because I didn't really understand at that time. But I think just because I said thank you, and I cried and I said thank you as best I can, even though I didn't understand what I was doing, I just said thank you because I was told to. I believe now. That thing just cut off for a second, so a call came in as I was recording this. So I was recording this on my phone, so I was saying that what I feel, like what I is saying, I feel the reason that this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that I'm able to have the understanding that I have, is because last year I said thank you. So I really, really hope this message was meaningful. I really hope it changed the way people think. And again, I bless everyone, give everyone a bracha for really a healthy, really healthy, and happy, very, very happy, very, very, very happy, and of course prosperous and all that good stuff year this year. Take care. Shana Tova.